Hello, this is Jim Hunt for Bramasol's Insights to Action video series. I'm really pleased today to have Craig Doughty with us, who is account executive at Bramasol. He has a lot of experience in defining and leading successful SAP Cloud S/4HANA ERP projects. And we're going to talk, this is the first of a three-part series of being successful in your move to SAP Cloud ERP. And this part one is going to talk about getting ready. Craig, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Jim, for having me. I'm excited to kind of dive into this.
Great. Let's start with kind of an overview of the things we're going to talk about today.
All right. So what I really wanted to kind of get focused on is kind of these three key topics on kind of a right before you're getting ready for an implementation phase, and you're setting the project's boundaries. You're really kind of getting that overall feel of just how everyone's going to work out, and it really sets the tone for how you're going to do this within each phase of the project, all the way from prepare all the way from go live. And these key specs are going to be project governance, organizational buy-in, and data readiness. And with that being said, it's like these are the three key important areas where we're going to have a very good discussion on what to do when you're getting a project, when you're starting S/4HANA public cloud, and how to kind of get through this process to get into the next phase.
Sounds great, Craig. Let's just dive right in.
All right. So project governance. All right. So how each project's going to be set up is within establishing ownership with internal roles and responsibilities. So each internal role is going to have, they're going to have area of expertise, whether it be supply chain, procurement, or in the financial realm, whether it be accounting or internal controlling. And within each ownership, you're going to have responsibilities within this module area. And to really have that established governance is going to be really key for the beginning of the project. So we can recognize within your company who is going to be in charge of getting all the information, all the data, approving all of the fit to standard processes within your company during this transformation. And that kind of comes with matching roles as well. So your partner of choice or SAP, we're going to provide you a consultant for each module area. And it's really important to match those roles, those internal roles within your project governance, within those module areas of the person that you're working with. So just identifying your key super users and your project managers, who's really going to help set up meetings and really kind of define whether each criteria of the project of a workshop is going to be key in getting us to move along to the next phase. And of course, defining a communication processes. So these kind of come from the bottom up. It comes from your SMEs and your consultants. It comes from your project management and the corresponding project manager from your partner side. And of course, having a steering committee to make sure that you are on track to hit each phase and going on to the next phase of each of the implementation. So these are three really good ways to kind of get your project started. And it's very important that these are very clear, that everyone has a defining role, that there's an org chart, that if CEO or anyone from up top knows exactly what they're doing.
Sounds great. Good summary. And then once that structure is in place, buy-in becomes key, right?
That is exactly right. So within each company, they buy SAP S/4HANA, and everyone's excited. But we need to kind of have that communication to everyone, and to know that it's not just you buy the product and it's up and running. No, I mean you have to kind of set expectations to really gauge upon that. This is going to be it's going to be either a multi-month or multi-year phase project. It's very important that this is going to be within SAP S/4HANA, this is going to be a transformational piece of ERP that's going to set and to expand and scale up your company. So really kind of having that tone and that set from everyone from the CEO, the CFO, and the CTO, all the way down to the super user. It is very to set expectations, just to know that it's not going to be, sometimes it's not going to be easy, and sometimes there are going to be things that are going to be roadblocks, but set expectations to make sure that people, that every individual know from your organization is going to have a say in how to do this implementation. So, defining budget and schedule parameters, of course, is all involve scope. Everyone's going to have great ideas on how they want to have a own custom, personalized SAP S/4HANA experience. And one that's wonderful news. But if we're really kind of sticking to a fit to standard approach, we need to define on when to say no and when to kind of say, hey, this is what we're decided upon. This is how the company's going to run. And even though sometimes your development idea is great, if we're going to be doing a clean core approach, I really do believe that if you kind of have a defining what it is and how we're going to do the process is going to be really key, and just because within each different development project, it's going to kind of expand the scope. It's going to have a more detailed list of different development objects. So just what we want to do is we want to kind of define the budget in the beginning. We want to kind of schedule the parameters around that budget, and we want to make sure that there's not going to be anything that's going to kind of hinder the way of the project within this, just within what we're proposed in the beginning. And then, of course, assure alignment and overall company goals. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page with how we are going along with this implementation. So kind of having a change management plan, or having that sort of conversation in the beginning where, these are the certain module areas we're going to be turning on, and we want to make sure that each and every person that we're talking with is or in within the organization doesn't have kind of grandeur or overall kind of different ideas on what we're going to be doing during a different phased approach of a project. And it may be that that we can discover some different attributes, or discover some different key business process areas within that could help with the overall company goals of implementing S/4HANA in a phased approach. But in my overall experience, kind of having that alignment on just deciding upon having a fit to standard approach, and really just trying to make sure that we fit within the system, so it would be very, very easy for upgrades.
Yeah, so this buy-in, essentially, we want to make everybody feel like they're part of the project. It's not something happening to them,
Yes.
but also help them understand the parameters, that they may not get everything they want, because there's
Yes.
a balance between fit to standard and being able to customize things.
Absolutely. And that's the overall key into very smooth S/4HANA transformation, is to always have that everyone in the back of their mind that, hey, these are the module areas that we're going to be working with. We're going to do a fit to standard approach, and we want to be as clean core as possible so that we can have a good beginning of the project, because we don't want to go down the line and all of a sudden, a scope is changing, everything, people want to do different things and add different module areas, and that just, and all of a sudden you're taking a phased approach project, and it's transforming into something even bigger. So yeah, we want to make sure that we're aligned with everyone, and everyone is in and key on what we're doing within each phase approach of a S/4HANA.
Great. So we talked about people, aligning them and getting buy-in. Data is the other big thing that needs to be addressed in this getting ready stage, right?
Yeah, so it's very key to kind of get your data prep. So there's different approaches within each S/4HANA implementation or cloud implementation. There is the brownfield approach, which is, you have an existing SAP ERP system, whether it be ECC or something a little bit older, or you do a greenfield approach, which is what a lot of companies are doing, where they don't have an ERP infrastructure, and so they're going to a different, they're starting from scratch. And within each each approach does have and pose some problems. What we really want to identify are data flows. So starting and kind of having a idea on how your data is flowing within your system, what kind of different software you're using to procure that data, and what and how you are going to migrate that data in the beginning to your S/4HANA public cloud so that you can have a correct procedure on doing different test cases and use cases right before you get the project started. So your internal company, your company and your organization is very comfortable as soon as we start those kind of workshops and really kind of digging into your system and really kind of just to have that kind of overall idea on how your data is flowing within SAP S/4HANA with what you originally were using. Procuring master data, so it's always very key to have a master data set so that the system reads what it's doing within the project data flow. And then, of course, preparing data for a cloud project. I mean, it's it's very, very important just to have a clear structure on how you're getting from a from a purchase all the way to a goods receipt, just having that kind of flow all the way down and really recognizing where your gaps, what do you want to kind of, relay to eliminating data redundancies. And, this the data readiness is really just a good process in kind of identifying gaps and identifying where there are redundancies, where there are ways where you can kind of do things better and not really utilize even more cloud space than you're already using. So, having data readiness is just really key and just in the beginning and really having that kind of thought process moving forward.
Right. And I assume that this is where we identify sometimes as a surprise that maybe there are legacy applications out there that have their own siloed, separate data repositories, and we need to
Hmm.
identify those, surface those at this point so we can work them into the workshop plans on how to deal with that and hopefully unify.
Right. Yeah. And to be honest, that's a really great reason to start with like a greenfield approach. So you're starting from scratch, so you can recognize those data silos on some of these legacy applications, and then you can kind of match it and be like, okay, do we still want to run these, or can we fit it within SAP and have SAP run it, and immediately start the deprecation period of a legacy application. So just deciding on where the data is going to reside is going to definitely be key within cloud for sure.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe a quick review on what we talked about today, and then we'll go on to next steps.
Yeah. So yeah, today, with kind of the goals and outcomes is, just having your internal and external teams and relationships defined, making sure that your project and your project teams on both sides with your partner and your internal organization, that everyone knows their role, and having a budget and schedule defined, very key in making sure that a project doesn't go off the rails and making sure that everyone is sticking to plan, sticking to fit the standard. And of course, a data assessment and making sure that what data that you're using, your master data, that you're having that set up when you're doing a migration and when you're really kind of setting up the system so that you can figure out ways to kind of have your users and your key super users just play around and having an idea on what their S/4HANA cloud implementation will do for their company.
That's great. This has been a really good overview of the first phase, which is getting ready.
Yes.
Just kind of a preview of the other videos in this series. We're going to address the discovery phase, which is drilling down deeper, and then the realization phase, which is where you actually start to implement and move toward that go live event, right?
Yes, and discovery is going to be a very important phase. Not that all these phases are important, but discovery is really where we're going to get into the different processes of what we're going to be doing within your S/4HANA cloud system.
Great. I look forward to that one. So, Craig, thank you very much for this one. I know that this entire series is going to be very helpful to people that companies that are looking at the potential of moving to S/4HANA Cloud. And
Yes.
our intent is to give them a good beginning roadmap, and then we'll flesh it out as we go forward. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Craig.
Thank you, Jim, for having me.
Have a good day.
You too.